Few watches in recent memory have stirred up as much controversy as the two-tone Rolex Explorer, which caught everyone by surprise when it dropped at Watches and Wonders 2021. As a longtime Explorer fan and as an owner of a vintage Explorer, I immediately knew this was a watch I needed to see in the metal ASAP. When I first put it on, I'll admit it, I wasn't 100% sold, but after a week of wearing this yellow, gold, and steel Explorer all around LA, I've got just one message for the haters out there. This thing flat out rules. We're here in Santa Monica, California, and this is a week on the wrist with the Rolex Explorer two-tone. The Explorer has always occupied a unique position in the world of Rolex sport watches. It's quite a bit smaller than watches like the Sub and the GMT, it doesn't have a rotating graduated bezel, and it lacks the flashes of color that make pieces like the Pepsi or the Orange Hand pop. It's the understated, no-nonsense Rolex sport watch, and it's remained largely unchanged since it first appeared almost 70 years ago. I've been a longtime fan of the Explorer. I own an early Explorer, and I love this watch. This is the first Explorer that I think you could call flashy by any real definition of that word. But I think it does a great job balancing that hint of flash with all the things that make the Explorer an icon. After a few years of the Rolex Explorer flirting with a 39mm profile, the return to the 36mm size is extremely welcome. The Explorer's simplicity and straightforwardness really shine at this more modest size. The understated hour markers, the moderate amount of dial text, and the model-defining 3, 6, and 9 all have enough room to breathe here. They don't look like they're out to sea on this deep, glossy black dial. Likewise, the new tapered bracelet helps the watch sit even better on the wrist than many of the previous 36mm models, in particular those with the bulkier clasp systems. There's also a new movement. It's the caliber 3230, and it puts all the latest Rolex tech to work. It's got a 70-hour power reserve, it's accurate to +2, -2 seconds per day, it's COSC certified, and it's anti-magnetic to boot. The big story here is that the bezel, the crown, and the center bracelet links are all rendered in highly polished 18-karat yellow gold. The rest of the case and bracelet are still steel, don't worry about that, and Rolex calls this configuration Rolazor, which is just their fancy terminology for two-tone. The dial furniture and hands are also gold, which for me adds a lot of warmth that makes me think of those early gilt dials in a great way. For the first 2 or 3 days of wearing the watch, the gold was all I saw. It was the new element of the watch, but after it settled in and I started to get used to it, I found there were lighting conditions in which I didn't even notice the watch was two-tone at all. It just looked like the watch had this sort of warm, rich character to it, and only in direct, bright sunlight would I really notice the gold links and the gold bezel. I actually think that's a strength of this watch. The watch doesn't feel like it's explicitly saying, I'm a two-tone Rolex or I'm a gold Rolex. It's just a different take on a watch that you think you know, and it makes you look at it in a new, fresh way. And just in case you're worried, you should know the introduction of gold does not decrease the build quality of this watch at all. It is still the sturdy, hard-wearing Rolex sport watch that you know and that you expect. It just has a little bit more gold. It's important not to overlook the price of this watch either. At $10,800, you're able to get yourself into the gold Rolex game without stretching very far into 5-figure territory. Sure, that's still a lot of money for a watch, I get that, and a good 50% more than the all-steel model, but I think that this watch still presents tremendous value for money at that price. Over the last few years, we've seen Rolex really emphasizing precious metal watches in their sport line. We've seen new two-tone and gold GMTs. We've seen a bunch of new gold Daytonas, and I'm not at all surprised to see that enter the Rolex Explorer. It makes perfect sense, and it's a nice way for people to kind of dip their toe into the gold Rolex world while still having a sport watch that they can wear day in and day out. Whether we'll see a solid gold Explorer in the next few years, only time will tell, but I gotta be honest, I'm there for it. To me, this feels like the perfect watch for this moment. It's aspirational and it makes me want to charge back out into the world head first. It's indulgent without being obnoxious. And most of all, it's the kind of watch that just puts a smile on my face every time I look at it or put it on. I'm confident saying that the Rolex Explorer is one of the greatest watches of all time. And this new version, controversy and all, is the greatest Explorer we've seen in years.